Welcome, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your host for the Las Vegas Real Estate Show, and thanks very much for tuning in. We're getting a lot of great response from people who like the show, like the format, and like what we talk about. We are going to today talk about one of our congressional candidates in the 3rd District here in Las Vegas, who's going to tell us a little bit about why he should be elected to Congress and what he's going to do if he gets there. As you know, what we try to do on the show each and every week is to bring you information about properties, about what's going on in the Valley, about mortgages, about title, all things that affect decisions that you're going to be making when you are making decisions about either buying or selling real estate, or you're just looking for an investment property. Maybe you've got some people who are moving here, friends, family, and there are so many reasons why people would move into Las Vegas, into the Valley. So we really appreciate that you're here, that you're listening to the show, and also that each and every week we try to bring some relevancy to what goes on in your life here in the Valley, whether it has to do with human trafficking, which we've dealt with in the past, whether it has to do with disasters and what happens when disasters happen to you, to your family, or to the Valley in general. There are many reasons that real estate is affected. I had some great meetings with both people here in Las Vegas and outside of Las Vegas about things that would affect you in your water supply, in your electric supply, maybe some of the delivery systems that are here in place. Lots of construction going on in the Valley, and all these things which really are terrific for you. How do they affect you, as I said, in your decision-making process about what you want to do when you buy and sell real estate? Anyway, I'm Jeff Barton. Really appreciate you all listening and watching the show, and we'll be right back.
Are you experiencing hair loss? We have the solution with no drugs, no surgery, and no side effects. Experience 100% pain-free results with SuperGrow Laser Cap System, featuring 272 professional-grade lasers that make your hair thicker and fuller naturally. Use it 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and notice your hair growth in as little as 3 months. Visit online at irevivelaser.com to order your SuperGrow Laser Cap today and experience unbelievable results. irevivelaser.com.
Want to know how to create more business and save money? Simple. The answer is video. Video shares are the fastest growing form of word-of-mouth advertising, and according to InternetRetailer.com, visitors who viewed a business video were 85% more likely to buy after watching it. People today are on the go. They don't have time to read text, but they have 1 minute to watch video. At HD Video King, we not only create quality video that's right for you, we coach you on how to get the most from it. Call today. Our award-winning staff are ready to assist.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your host for the Las Vegas Real Estate Show, and we come to you each and every Sunday at 4:30, and thanks for tuning in. And what we try to do is bring information, to bring things that will affect your decisions in buying and selling real estate. Topically, we get into all kinds of things that affect your life here in Las Vegas. We are an international brand here, as well as a terrific place to live, work, and raise your families here locally. This week, we are happy once again to bring back to the show Congressional District candidate, Congressional District number 3, Steve Schiffman. Steve, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing? Glad
just
to be
great.
invited. Well, I appreciate being out here again to promote the candidacy, as well as to find out about your views of the Las Vegas real estate markets.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions
Sure.
just right off the bat. There are things happening here that have happened since our last time on the show. Obviously, the security of the people who live here, work here. As a candidate, how do you address when things happen of a nature like the shooting, or maybe it's a disaster-related event? How do you see this as a human being, both as a person who lives here and also a candidate who's going to represent people who obviously live in your district and in the city?
I think the shooting redefines gun safety. I'll tell you why. Many people say it's the people who kill, not the guns. It's the criminals who do the action, not the innocent people, right? About stealing guns.
Yeah.
When you look at the shooter this time, he bought everything legally. He didn't smuggle any weapons. He didn't buy anything illegally. He was a law-abiding person. He was not on anybody's radar. Look what he did. That shows you that gun control, gun safety
Well,
is important.
there was some issue as to his mental health, and the Army or the forces, the United States Armed Forces, not telling certain people who do background checks that this guy had mental illness.
Are we familiar about the shooter in Las Vegas in terms of the hotel?
Yes.
I wasn't aware about that.
Yeah, exactly. They've done some background checks. So the question is, for you as a candidate, you're advocating more gun laws, less gun laws?
Reasonable gun safety. What does that mean? For example, if you have a weapon, should you have a semi-automatic weapon? Do you really need that for hunting or home protection, for example? If you like to go hunting, you have a rifle. Do you need a high capacity magazine that will do 15, 20 rounds of ammunition to go hunting for a goose or a bird or anything of that sort? Right now, one source of consideration is that of controlling or limiting the size of the magazine.
Right.
The courts have already ruled that that is constitutional, that you can have it done, for example, limited to 10.
That's what they have it in California. They have 10-round magazines. That's what it is.
Does that take away your rights to protect yourself?
No, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just asking questions because I know in this constituency, gun
That's
rights
right.
is a big deal, right? It's almost akin to
Religion.
Yes, exactly right. And I think in a lot of ways it resembles the fervor that religion can bring up.
It reminds me of the monkey trial of Scopes back in the 1920s.
That's right.
About how they feel that if you take away any right of the gun, and I've had people say, we have uncontrollable right, when that's not true. The Supreme Court has said that the Second Amendment does not say you have the absolute right to bear or to have any weapons to do what you want at any time. That's not true.
Okay, let's move on to a couple of things.
Sure.
Steve was very nice because he brought in a couple of topics, which I'm very happy you did. You talked about the DREAM Act. Tell us what the DREAM Act is.
Well, that's basically saying to people who are here, young people who came because their parents brought them here, that if the pass of the law gets straightened, that they won't be expelled, and will also give them the right to work for at least 3 years.
Now, in Nevada, this is not a sanctuary city here in Las Vegas.
As far as I know, it's not.
No, it's not. And we just went through a case in San Francisco where somebody who was supposed to be expelled in that state was obviously not, and ended up shooting and killing a woman. The trial just ended and he was acquitted. What do you say about people who think that the DREAM Act allows more and more people from that same family to enter the country? There's no control over those kind of people. How do you handle immigration beyond the DREAM Act? Or is it just an isolated thing where all we're going to have is those children being allowed to be here? Or is it an extended family? How are you handling that?
The Dreamers Act is very clear. It says those people below a certain age who came here with their parents and who do not have any felony convictions have the right to stay here without fear of being kicked out. And that will also give them the right to work for at least 3 years. What's wrong with that?
Well, in Nevada, what do they do about background checks? How are they doing it? How are you at the federal level going to either support or not support what they're doing here in the state? For instance, the extensive background checks that they're currently doing, is it something that we should federalize? Is
Background
it a state-
checks for whom and for
For
what?
anybody who's employed in the state. For instance, in other states, what they do is they do E-Verify. For instance, if you're going to hire somebody at a restaurant or you're hiring somebody at a casino or you've got construction workers, they have to E-Verify you, meaning that you're a citizen, that you have Social Security, and that you are passing background criminal checks.
Well, first of all, technically speaking, and I'm aging myself, Social Security is never used for identification purposes. They'll say this is a number given so you can work. But when I worked, either for the US government, I had to show my passport, birth certificate. I had to show that I was born here, that I had a legal right to do so. Nothing wrong with that. That's not taking away any rights. But you're going on one issue which is very important. When you're talking about hiring potentially illegal workers, is what you're implying?
That's correct.
The duty, the obligation should be on the employer, not the employee, all right? It's up to the due diligence. And let's face it, many times people know that their status is questionable, especially cash businesses where they don't keep track of what's being given on the paper.
In the day labor market, where you are hiring off the corner, which they do in many cities, in many municipalities, certainly here in Las Vegas, where you're not able to actually check, and some states have it to whereby you can go and work for up to 3 days without any verification at all. And I don't know if that's something at the federal level you would deal with, or whether that's something here locally, and you're saying that the employer has the onus and the responsibility to be able to verify that. What about the costs? I mean, we just had Senate passage of the new tax bill. You have tax policies in your notes, in your statements. What is it exactly that you would support in terms of, one, relieving some of the tax burdens on employers locally, and then do you support the current tax plan as it is in the Senate?
Well, the tax plan really is a reward to the, quote, red states and a penalty the blue states. Now, why am I saying that? Because one of the key elements is to be able to deduct state and local taxes, sales taxes. California, New York, parts of Chicago are very expensive, heavily taxed. Now, you get value for dollar, there's no question about that, but it's heavily taxed. And some of the burden is relieved when you can write that off your taxes. Number two, they want to do away with, or potentially do away with, interest on buying homes. Now, if you are in the very upper income, it really doesn't bother you. If you're on the lower strata, you're not going to buy a home. But the middle class relies often on the tax benefits of buying a home. It is one of the engines to buy a home. It's one of the engines for cooperatives and condominiums because you can write off certain amounts of the HOA costs. Take away those incentives, it may destroy the housing industry for the middle class.
Now, they've said that, and I'm not sure whether it will or it won't. Most of the time what we have is whether interest rates go up, whether prices go up, whether they fall. The market always adjusts. And the middle class, you mentioned the middle class, and if you look on a chart of, lower to a higher class, all the way up to the super rich, what you have is the super rich is this big on the graph, and the poor are this small. And then you get the middle class, which is just a little bit bigger than the small poor people. What's your plan? Do you have one? Do you have an idea of how you would improve the middle class life? How you, obviously, improving the taxes and allowing them to write it off for their income tax so that they obviously can afford more housing. But what's your idea to get the middle class, I guess, pumped up? Everyone talks about it. What's your idea, especially here in the Valley?
A focus on education, for example.
Okay.
Graduate school is very important. What is the tax bill saying to graduate students? You cannot take off the interest rate that you're paying for student loans. When I grew up, and when you were young, many people like us took out student loans. We paid them off because the interest rates weren't astronomically high. But yet, today, they're trying to discourage that. They're saying, well, let's lower the taxes, but who will benefit from it? Not the students, not the middle class. Those who have the ability and money to make a sizable income will benefit long term. They're the ones that will have the itemized write-offs. They're the ones who use professional people to invest their money. But the average Joe, so to speak, is not in this category. How many people itemize their taxes? If you have a lot of spending, sure, you'll do that. But for the middle class, the itemized deduction is not necessary. Same thing with health care. If you itemize, you can take off. But if you take the standard deduction, you don't. And so you ask yourself, who's benefiting from the tax reform?
Well, that's true. Who is benefiting from the tax return? Because, the new tax proposal, obviously we've got a conference committee between the House and the Senate to come up with more of a bipartisan, not bipartisan, but certainly not bipartisan, because I think it got 0 Democratic votes. Is that right?
In the Senate.
In the Senate, that's correct. So we've got about a minute left. Can you just summarize the excitement you have about running for Congress and what you think you can bring to that body?
I'm trying to bring in awareness that we have to stand up and be counted. We just can't sit down and do nothing. For example, the primaries election rate is maybe like 15% of the voters.
That's right.
They shouldn't do that. Number two, we have to show that we have to be able to be open in our decision making, in our ability to take in ideas. You can't be polarized. You can't say, you're right, I'm wrong, or if I'm right, you have to be wrong. It's not a zero-sum game. It's compromise, consensus, and we have to build that way. We have to reach out to different people to say, let me hear your ideas so I can digest what you have and try to work together. That's what motivates my candidacy.
Thank you very much once again for coming on the show. And when's the primary?
In June.
Well, you got some time, so we'll have you back on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Barton, your host for the Las Vegas Real Estate Show, and we'll be right back.
Are you experiencing hair loss? We have the solution with no drugs, no surgery, and no side effects. Experience 100% pain-free results with Super Grow Laser Cap System, featuring 272 professional-grade lasers that make your hair thicker and fuller naturally. Use it 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week, and notice your hair growth in as little as 3 months. Visit online at irevivelaser.com to order your Super Grow Laser Cap today and experience unbelievable results. irevivelaser.com.
Ruthless Cowboys, keeping the American dream alive and creating jobs one t-shirt at a time. From fabric to design, Ruthless Cowboys makes 100% American-made apparel that hardworking Americans are proud to wear. At RuthlessCowboys.com, you can shop for shirts and accessories for the cowboy or cowgirl in your life. Head to RuthlessCowboys.com, check us out on Facebook and Instagram by searching Ruthless Cowboys. Ruthless Cowboys, we're all about family, country, and keeping it all American. RuthlessCowboys.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff Barton, your host for the Las Vegas Real Estate Show. Thanks for tuning in. We're on every Sunday night. So when you're at home and you're not doing anything and it's after or before something you want to watch, like a football game, tune us in. We talk all things real estate here in the Valley, certainly in Las Vegas itself. A lot of great opportunities out there in the marketplace for you. Prices have risen, but so have the opportunities in some of the areas that you want to take advantage of. Buy, sell, anything that has to do with real estate we try to deal with on the show. Each and every week we bring on a guest, and then we go to topics for the show that we've already discussed with our great panel. And once again, they're here with us again. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you. Terrell Robinson, who is in investment and also does a lot of credit work for people. Terrell, thanks very much. And Rebecca Fitzgerald, who is our resident real estate expert, who is a realtor here in the Valley. And Charles Giscombe, who is a mortgage loan officer for Malibu Funding. I want to thank you all for coming on the show.
Thanks again.
First off, we get into a couple things locally here. It's that time of season. Do we see things slowing down or picking up here at this time of the year? Obviously, we're at the end of the year. What's the prognosis for going forward?
Right now, people are kind of focusing on their holiday season. They're buying gifts. Even with the credit restoration, has actually slowed down. They're trying to. I'm advising them not to go over the 30%, but they want to spoil their kids. So right now, things are slowed down a little bit as far as on my end. Even on the consulting side, I have some more. The clients that are a little bit more savvy when it comes to real estate, they're taking advantage.
Yeah,
of it.
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree with him. I bought a house last year and I got a steal on it. I think as far as a buyer, this is the best time to buy
Absolutely.
because other people aren't buying.
Yeah.
Because yes, people don't want to move when they're in the middle of the holidays and Christmas and stuff like that. But sellers still want to sell,
Right.
and they're going to take offers. Obviously, their house is on the market.
Do people take off the market this time of year their homes, or do they just leave them on through the holiday season in hoping?
A little bit
Leave it
both.
on from my. Oh,
Yeah.
go
No, a little bit of both. I mean, some people will pull it off and say, hey, listen, we're going to the new year. I'm dealing with a lot of individuals that are trying to take advantage because now they got to move that money around so they don't get taxed for the next year. So you're dealing with those
Okay, good.
1031
Tax bill.
exchange.
What's going on with the new tax bill? Or they haven't reconciled it yet, but between the Senate version and the House of Representatives version, there are benefits, obviously, for the super wealthy. Obviously, the tax burden is coming down, but the write-offs that you're going to have, how's this going to affect supply and demand here locally?
I mean,
Because-
I don't particularly think that it would really affect the supply and demand here locally. Like I said before, I know they were talking about doing away with the 1031 exchanges, which is just terrible. But I feel that people will just hold the properties longer, which is going to affect supply
Absolutely.
greatly, and it's going to increase more demand. And then in a couple of years, they're going to make more money off of it, and they avoid capital gains taxes.
Well, what about the capital gains tax? I thought they were doing away with that too.
Well, one of the things that in the financial aspect that I'm doing with my clients, in real estate you have what's called 1031 exchange. Well, in the financial aspect, we have what is called 1035 exchange.
I see.
So the wealthy people actually put their, I ain't gonna say hide, but put their money into life insurance. So if you have your money put into an index universal life, Now you don't have to worry about the taxes on it. And
Correct.
then when you get ready to pull that money out at retirement, it is tax free.
It's exempt. Absolutely.
Tax-free?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a big deal. So,
Yes.
are you seeing people then in the future would put more money into real estate products? I mean, less in real estate products and more into insurance products as a result of what's going on in the tax bill?
I'm dealing with it now. As a matter of fact, prime example, Jim Harbaugh, the head coach of University of Michigan, that's how they pay him. It's through an Index Universal Life. So therefore, he gets the benefit of the cash, and it's making interest. So even when the market collapses, and it will go down, you have a zero floor. And then when he gets ready to retire, he can decide how he wants to take out his distributions, because now he's became his own bank. He gets to enjoy the cash. His family gets to enjoy the death.
And he won't take any losses, right? Is his principal protected?
Right.
And another thing that they were talking about, doing away with the estate tax,
Yeah.
which I kind of agree with, because the estate tax, someone already paid the taxes on it, and then you got to pay taxes on it again.
Well, yeah, and I don't know whether in the area of the show that we have here today, I don't know whether they're going to reconcile that, whether that's going to come back in. I just think down the road, they're kicking a lot of these financial issues down the road, unless, of course, they eliminate entitlements. And I don't know how that, again, affects, you know, your local transportation, whether it's your healthcare, your infrastructure, what goes on with the roads. Because, you know, around here, they're building more roads than you can imagine, especially up in the northern, especially where we're shooting here today, driving over off the 95. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of construction going on.
Absolutely.
So how does federal dollars versus state dollars, are they affected in the tax bill in order to, you know, we've got to provide infrastructure here in Las Vegas. You know, you've got your water, electric, power, all these things that need to be subsidized by both state and local governments. Now,
Well, luckily here, I mean, we're getting a lot of extra income from the marijuana, but there's a really high tax on that. So that can basically, it's supposed to go towards education, it's supposed to go towards, you know, these type of things you're talking about, the infrastructure of the city.
okay, do you know the numbers on this thing? Because when I'm looking at it, it looks like they're huge, but we're talking billions, are we talking millions in tax dollars from the, and that leads us to a whole nother discussion about marijuana, how the casino's gonna deal with it, what's the state gonna do if in fact, you know, the federal government's still calling it a class 1 drug, or class B or class A. So how do you deal with that when you're dealing with legalized money in the casinos, yet you have not really federally legal money yet in the marijuana industry?
A lot of these cryptocurrencies are actually creating a way for the marijuana industry to get their money into the banks. They came out with something called Potcoin, which basically people are going to be able to put their money in an ATM and get these pot coins. So then the marijuana industry can accept that and trade it amongst themselves. Since it's a niche market, it's not so volatile like Bitcoin is. It goes
Right.
up and down, so it's easier for someone to accept that. Then what they can do is they can trade it into another cryptocurrency and put it back in their bank. So they're finding ways to circumvent the whole idea that you can't put the money into the banks.
But the casino, what we're dealing with right now, this is going to be a long, steady walk, because the casino, they obviously want to stay separate, but now with everything in California and here, what's happening now is these guys want to get involved with that money. Because also now, from a casino standpoint and a hotel standpoint, are you going to back away the cannabis and the marijuana conventions? If you're a convention-heavy city, how can you back away off that money? This is growing every day, and when the legalization in California happens as well, the boom is going to be ridiculous because it's already happening here. So
Right.
you're pushing away a lot of money. So now where the casino owners used to say, now they're saying, that's money.
Right.
The current-
That's big money
I've
coming
heard
through
from
the door.
My source, Campaign, he said I can mention his name. Well, what's happened, Steve Wynn is actually championing this thing. He sees the future. And so that's one of the things as far as being in the marijuana into the casinos, but that's also the Vegas, they're going to try to do like in Germany. So they're going to have these little lounges until we can solve that problem to where they can actually come into the casinos and actually be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something they were developing. But I read recently that the legal marijuana industry right now is estimated to be $30 billion a
Yes.
year.
Okay, what happens in a loan? I'm in the marijuana business, I make a lot of money in the marijuana business, I want to get a loan for my house, can I do it?
Well, this is the thing. So, if you're going to finance your home, let's use a quick example. You have an individual who's a grower of marijuana.
Right.
There is loans for him to do a land acquisition and a construction loan. let's say in California, well, in January or now, he can finance that. There's financing that can occur. Now, how comfortable everybody is at the end of the day is one thing, but from a legal standpoint, yes, he can get a loan. He can get financed.
If you've got a Fannie Mae, a Freddie Mac, or Ginnie Mae, or some kind of a government-insured loan, you can't get that. It's against the law with the feds.
Well, that's why you can come to a non-QM situation.
Oh, I see. So
which
it's all
Malibu
right.
funding does provide on a regular basis at very low interest
But they're
rates.
actually having, one of the marijuana industry is actually having more issues in financing buildings to grow because the buildings are all federal, loans. So
Right.
they can't get financing to build buildings to do indoor growing. I talked to a guy recently. Has this plan in his head that he's going to buy buildings and then lease them out to them because he has the cash to just have it outright.
No, what you have to do is you do that. You can get financing to acquire the land.
Private money.
And you can put,
Right.
no, and you
Has
can
to
put,
be.
and you can put, and you can build the manufacturing on this land. Like she said, you build a manufacturing plant on this land because you have to have somewhere to do all these different things. And at the end of the day, you can get a construction or perm financing loan against this. And some people are very comfortable that are hip to what's going on in the cannabis world, and obviously from a traditional standpoint, they're going to back away for that. But I think once they just know how to regulate it and make money off it, that'll loosen up too, Jeff. They'll let that go too.
Right.
There's too much money that's going to be flowing for the government to back away from on loans, because this is going to be a plethora of money that's coming to the table that can do a number of different things to help a lot of different areas.
Well, you're moving illegal money to legal money. And if the impediment is legislation or the federal government, like a Jeff Sessions, who's the Attorney General, saying, hey, I'm all against it. There's a problem to moving it from illegal to legal. Whatever the solution is, I agree with you. It's a long walk, it's a slow walk. But if you're in the business right now and you're trying to move it, you probably have to go private money.
Right.
Correct. They would have to, and there's some private money or hard money lenders out there that actually lend on it. And
Absolutely.
then the biggest thing is also when it comes down for a lending aspect, is okay. Can you provide us with the assets, the cash? How are you going to pay for this property? Well, that's where I will come in. I have certain products. What we can do is again put that client's money into this life insurance product, and now that becomes an asset and cash basis for them. So some people use their 401k. They can use what is called the Index Universal Life, and now they have access to that liquid cash because that is their money. So they can.
But like I said, they can now with all these cryptocurrencies, they can circumvent all of that.
Yeah.
And
If it's legal.
There's Bitcoin machines out right now.
You don't. It's legal. They don't. You're not understanding. It's legal to be able to put money into this currency and this currency. Trading currencies is legal. So.
But not creating currency. That's the purview of the U.S. government only.
You're trading the currency, but the thing about it is it's a cryptocurrency. It's invisible, so you can't actually see where it actually came from. So there's no way you can prove how much you had at one point. You could say, I've always had this money, and you just decided you wanted to cash it out.
I think Vegas's biggest issue with it is they're not worried about the guy who does a $10,000 transaction that deals in cannabis and the flower, and that's a whole nother different situation because cannabinoid oil and the flower is a whole different situation, which I'm sure we'll get into it at some other time. But they're not worried about that. They're worried about the big time individual that's bringing millions and millions and millions of dollars in the casino. That's what they're looking at and finding a way to make that situation work, because at that point, from that standpoint, it becomes a federal crime.
Right. Hey, I got to call it here.
Are you trying to washing money?
Thank you very much for coming
Absolutely.
back. No,
Absolutely.
we'll deal with it in the next show, but really appreciate you all coming back to the
Absolutely.
show once again.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
I'm Jeff Barton, and I'm your host for the Las Vegas Real Estate Show. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.